Welcome, guys. Welcome. Hello. How you guys doing?
Good. How are you, Sergio? Hi, Chris.
Doing great, guys. Doing great. Hey, welcome to the Hair Wire, guys. This is the place for you to get your hair back. Yes, yes. How you guys doing today, guys?
Doing great. I'm very excited. Let's get this topic going.
Yes, yes. I was
Yes.
like also excited about our topic today, and I did a lot of readings and a little bit of listening. So let's go.
Let's get going, guys. Today we're going to be talking about androgenic alopecia and what it is, androgenic alopecia. Where does it come from? How do you get it? And everything in between, guys. So let me walk you a little bit about androgenic alopecia. It's also known as male pattern alopecia or male pattern baldness, also for female pattern hair loss. And either way is the same thing. Now, what describes an androgenic alopecia or male pattern, female pattern hair loss? To be very simple, is when you start losing density and volume on the top of your scalp in comparison to the sides and to the back. Now, of course, that's a very general and vague description. There's a most specific one when, whenever we go with a microscope, and of course, we look for very specific details. But if you're noticing that you're losing hair on the top versus what you got on the sides and the back of the head, then you might start looking for androgenic alopecia signs. And then after we have confirmed, then of course you will start looking for treatment to address that. Now, girls, what definition do you have on androgenic alopecia? Carrie, what you got have?
Well, first off, when I have clients come in for assessments, they always go, I have genetic hair loss. Well, just to remind everybody, there's more than one type of alopecia. And just because you know what the term is, genetic hair loss, doesn't always mean that you have genetic hair loss. And as well, too, with genetic hair loss, it's also, when I look at it, I look at I ask about your parents, your siblings, your aunts, your uncles, and when they started to get it, and whether it's a early stages of it or progressive stage of it or anything. So for me, like when I see it, I tell the client, let's do an assessment first. Let's make sure to rule out whether it is or is not genetic hair loss, and if it's a progressive genetic hair loss, and if it's in early stages or pre-early stages. So that would be my definition on it.
Yes.
Biz, what you say?
Yes, so basically, as you guys both said perfectly, is genetic hair loss, as the name indicate, we carry it from in our genes. Recent study says actually it is from the XX chromosomes, and when we have female pattern hair loss, we have widening here in the part. When we have male pattern hair loss, usually it will be the M shape, and the crown will start to be thin. Genetic hair loss is actually the easiest, between brackets, to control because despite of 50% of the population, men and women will suffer genetic alopecia at some point in their lives, but it is very controllable. And also it depends on when it starts. If it starts at early stages for men, it will be a little bit more challenging. Usually for women, it will start around 40s or 50s, but there is a lot of solutions out there, starting taking care of our bodies, and then topical solutions, of course, and many new treatments on the horizon right now.
Yeah. And one of the things that I want to mention for you, general public, if you want to know, or at least make sure that you're getting close to androgenic alopecia, one of the things that you can do is look at a couple of charts. One of the most famous charts is the Ludwig-Seving for women chart. Yeah, and we have the Hamilton-Norwood scale. That's right. Carrie is helping us here with the technology. Yes, and we have the Ludwig scale, which it resembles the areas in which we will see hair loss if you are experiencing female pattern hair loss. And of course, with the men. Now, there are very specific characteristics that we're going to be discussing here. Sorry for the Spanish accent sometimes. and when it goes in deep, I start talking like this. And and you know
Yeah,
it. But
I do that too.
yeah, yeah, business you can relate. You know, the Arabic
Yes,
comes into the.
yes, yeah.
I'm French Canadian. I do it at times too. So
It's an international show, guys. So
Yes.
that's what's happening here. So, a couple of things that we usually look into cases with androgenetic alopecia. First and foremost is the form. How is creating that pattern for males and females, and we usually go for the scale, and we compare it and we identify it. Now, the other specifics that we'll see is specifically in well, either men or women, is that when we use a scope, which is basically a camera that we go into the scalp with it, and we start looking for different signals. And one of the signals that one of the many signals that we go and look for is miniaturization of the follicles. Now, you may say,
Correct.
what is miniaturization? What's he talking about?
Miniaturization.
Yeah, miniaturization.
It's a
What
big,
is that? Yeah, it's just kind of
a
hard to
big
say
word.
sometimes. Yeah, and the thing about miniaturizations is that we start seeing that the caliber of the hair, the thickness of the hair, you will see many are very thick, while there's a couple of them, or few, or even more of them that are very thin, and sometimes very short hair. And the reason why that happens is that as hair starts to falling out, when new hair starts to grow in, they grow in smaller and thinner. And you know why that replacement happens, that's what we're going to be discussing later on. But as we see with the scope, and we see that there's a percentage higher than about 15%. Dr. Jeff Donovan from Canada, by the way,
Yes.
great dermatologist, and he will suggest, you know, anything above 10%. Now, I'm a bit more conservative. I like to say, you know, anything above 15% of miniaturization, then I will start suggesting that we are looking at androgenic alopecia. Also, we have Dr. Antonina Tosti, the mother of
The
trichoscopy. Yeah, she will
Awesome.
here I
suggest,
found a
excellent.
picture for you.
Perfect, perfect. She will suggest that whenever we start seeing coil hairs on the scope, that's one of the signals of, again, androgenic alopecia. The other thing that we see on the picture, if you go back to the picture for a second, is that we will start seeing also sebum accumulation on the follicles. If you look at the picture B, you will see that on the bottom of each follicles, you will see like a yellowish kind of circle. So you see the sebum being accumulated on those follicles. And that's one of the signals that you may usually see whenever we are talking about androgenic alopecia. So those are the types of characteristics that we are also looking. One of the things that Bisan mentioned was about the family trait. And it is very important. Carrie, when people come in, what type of a family trait history are you looking for?
I'm looking at patterns. I first asked about their mother and their father, their type of hair loss. I asked them to describe the type of hair loss that they have, or like where the hair is missing. I ask when they started losing their hair, the texture of their hair, and then I go down and roll their mom's mom, their mom's dad, and I go all the way to the siblings as well. And sometimes I'll go back as far as 3 generations.
Nice. Nice.
And I mean, we don't, sorry to interrupt, but cousins are not included because these are.
No, just parents, grandparents, and siblings. That's all I do. Yeah.
Yep.
Basically, and then I do ask if there's any autoimmune conditions. I will go into the aunts, because a lot of genetic autoimmune deficiencies and stuff can go into the aunts and uncles. So I will ask that for the first generation of aunts and uncles.
And the autoimmune angle is something that I want to talk with Biz, because can you, or have you seen androgenic alopecia being acquired?
Yes.
And not, yes. So tell me about those things, you know, because Carrie mentioned, you know, the autoimmune section of it. And it's very important here because sometimes there's no family history at all.
Right.
And you're just getting androgenic alopecia.
Yes.
And you'll be like, what?
Yes.
Where's this coming from? Why am I losing hair? My father, my mother, everybody has great hair. What's happening to me?
Yeah.
You know, I joked about it, and I stress it out a little bit dramatic here. But the thing is that
It's very true. Yeah,
it's very true. Yeah.
true.
So, what are the things that you will think, Bisan, you being the researcher, what are the things that you will usually look for on androgenic alopecia, not hereditary, but on the genetic side of it, things that we can
Right.
acquire?
Yeah, perfect. So you said actually two important things here. When we say androgenetic alopecia, we're talking about either genetic and or hereditary. Both are two different things. Genetic means in our genetic code, there we have a predisposition of the gene that we're gonna lose our hair at some point. And the hereditary suggests that we got it from our mom, my father, our immediate family. So when we're talking about genetic, we usually have a predisposition of, let us say a person has a predisposition of genetic alopecia to lose the hair at some point in their life. Well, epigenetic, as Carrie knows 100%, that it is more powerful than our genes.
Yeah.
Actually, recent studies suggest that 90% of our diseases or our life, what happens to us in our lifetime, it is 90% comes from epigenetic and 10% comes only from our genes. But this 10% is very powerful. Why? Because if you are predisposed to certain disease and you have a lousy lifestyle, you have hormonal imbalances, nutrition deficiencies, and toxicity, stress, all the issues that we always talk about, then this gene will become triggered. And when it triggered, you will lose your hair. Then, for example, a healthy lady, lived her whole life healthy, doing lots of sports, doing good dieting. At 40 years old, she got a major life tragedy. And then what happened is when she got this major life tragedy, the stress that happens to her body triggered her genetic predisposition of hair loss, and she started to shed like crazy. There's two things happening here. After a major stress, yes, we will shed like crazy as intelligent effluvium, but also shedding can be chronic. Acute shedding, intelligent effluvium, we'll talk about that in separate episodes, but chronic shedding, it is actually androgenetic alopecia. It's genetic alopecia. It's not from her mom, it's not from her father. It's just her body got triggered to lose the hair. And same with autoimmune disease. We have, like, a person have a genetic predisposition to have an autoimmune disease, and something happened, toxicity, something happened to it's called a trigger, and it triggers these predisposition. That's why, and we'll talk about that in more details with Kerry, epigenetic is actually more powerful, and it's a great tool to tame all our predispositions and help us understand our genes. There's a lot of test markers that we can pay for over the counter. You don't even need a physician. You just pay for it, and you have your biomarkers tested, and you know what you are predisposed to have, and then you kind of take care of it before it happens.
Yeah, I always say that with epigenetics. If you know what you're in predisposition for, you could prepare yourself not to come to it. So I have come on my mom's side, we have diabetes type 2, we have heart disease, we have a whole bunch of I have a lot of predispositions I'm up against, but now because I know what I'm up against, I'm evolving my body, biohacking my body essentially, so that way I do not get those. And the reason I know a lot about that is because, yes, I've had a trigger. I have a JAK2 mutation myself, which is a genetic mutant, a DNA that is like dormant, and it's a genetic mutation that is passed down all of my siblings. And it goes back, when we were navigating it, we went back 4 generations to find out where it came from. And it was, all of us have it, but we needed a trigger for it to happen. And my trigger happened to be my celiac disease. So I have celiac and I have psoriasis, and I just happened to have a really bad celiac attack that extracted that JAK2 mutation, caused me with this rare blood cancer called essential thrombocythemia JAK2. But I was predisposed to it, and I could have avoided that. So the whole epigenetics is educating people and being aware. So even if you don't have hair loss now and you want to get a trichology assessment, you could still go and be like, hey, I see patterns, I see this, maybe I could go talk to a trichologist and see what I'm up against and kind of prepare myself to avoid a lot of these circumstances. And your hair is a huge biomarker too for things you're up against and what's going on in your body. And a lot of people forget that. Like your hair is like your little magic crystal ball telling you what's going on.
Actually, I want to add something to there. It's actually a little bit also, I feel it's a bit cheaper than to do a test of your hair and run it through an epigenetic machine rather than going and paying for these huge. I wish we have the money to pay for all these biomarkers. Like I wish, but they're so expensive. They're so expensive. And your hair with a simple scope can tell you a lot. And with an epigenetic machine, it can tell you a lot. So I think I love hair just because it's the barometer of our health.
I'm going to add that about the whole it costs a lot, but the thing is though, like you're getting all these tests now. There's a meme going around, if I find it, it's a Buddhist monk, and he's talking about how you don't have time to take the time to take care of yourself now, and you say you can't afford it now. Wait until you're so sick or so deep in it that you can't afford it. So do the,
Yeah, work it ahead. If you can work it ahead, do so. Now, one of the things that I wanted to discuss is, what are some of the most common triggers? And we were mentioning, of course, about the dieting, about the environmental, and many others. Now, usually one of the things that I have always learned about androgenic alopecia is that one of the major signals that we get to see is basically a predisposition to be sensitive to DHT. Now, many people, they will talk about androgenic alopecia, DHT, and DHT is to blame for, it's to blame. Now, what's the deal with DHT, guys? What do you think is happening with DHT and this sensitivity that everybody talks about? Biz, would you like to start in that one?
Yeah, sure. So basically, usually guys more than women, because guys have more testosterone than us, just biologically speaking. So guys lose their hair more because of the dihydrotestosterone. So what is dihydrotestosterone? It's a 3% out of your testosterone that you used it at puberty only, and after that it lingers in your body, do nothing except feeding on your hair follicles, to say, not scientifically speaking, but literally speaking. So scientifically speaking, our hair follicles are very sensitive. They have it's like a puzzle. It's like a key and a lock. So some people have more sensitivity to this DHT. So so it locks the DHT into the hair follicles really well. Some people do not have this sensitivity, and this is genetic. This is where the genetic either predisposition or it's hereditary. So so when mostly guys have this high sensitivity to DHT, what happens is the hair follicle starts to miniaturize, starts to be thinner and thinner, and by time this follicle will start to be weaker and weaker and can't hold up the hair strand itself, and then eventually it will die. And that's why male pattern hair loss or male baldness will evolve, or even female pattern. Female pattern is a little bit different because it starts with DHT. It does have DHT component to it, but also female has more components to it, which is hormonal components and age-related components. We'll talk about that in a different, but of course.
Hey, and I'm going to interject real quick. For those who don't know what DHT is or what it does, well, EHT, what it does to your hair is it's a sex hormone that is a derivative of testosterone, but excess amount of this hormone can also affect the hair follicles. So DHT interferes with the hair growth, shrinking, and shortening of the hair, making it easier for it to fall out and more difficult for it to grow back. So those who don't know or wonder what it does, that's your quick little.
As you mentioned, it's usually we have a sensitivity.
Yeah.
Yet sometimes it's the amount of DHT that is in excess, but sometimes the amount is so low, and yet still the sensitivity outgrows the process. Now,
Very
one of the
important.
things that I want to mention is, where do in our body do we create DHT? And there's two places. Basically, happens inside the body and on our own skin. Where in our skin do we create DHT? In the sebaceous gland. The sebaceous gland creates DHT. So if we have DHT that is not related to our serum in our blood, how can we detect it? Well, basically, the easiest way to detect the excessive DHT on the scalp will be if you have an oily, greasy scalp. That's the main concern right there. Because if you have more oiliness in the scalp, then naturally you will have more DHT available into the skin. So that's why one of the things that many doctors like to use is ketoconazole shampoo, Nizoral shampoo, if you may. And some researchers mentioned that this ketoconazole 2% shampoo is actually a DHT blocker. And now, in my opinion, I don't think that it's a DHT blocker per se. It's that you're just washing away that excess oil which carries the DHT. And it's not that you're blocking it, you're just removing it, you know?
Nice. Nice.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
Nice. And that's why, sorry, one thing also, that's why there is no test for DHT. You cannot test if your DHT is high and then, oh, I'm going to lose my hair. No,
and even if it were higher, does it really mean that you're going to be losing hair? No. Not necessarily, but it could. It could.
And that's not necessarily.
Exactly. And that's why this discussion about DHT is so complicated. Guys, I'm okay, I'm gonna give you a heads up. We're gonna have a second and maybe a third part about this topic because it's large.
I think so.
It's large topic. Now, Carrie, I don't know how many minutes we still have left.
We got time. We got time.
We got time. All right, excellent. Because this is a large topic, guys. This is a large topic. I mean, we can talk about androgenic alopecia for ages. I mean, there has been researchers that have been studying androgenic alopecia for 30, 40, and even 50 years ago. I mean, we have to consider the first medication that was ever created was minoxidil.
That was finasteride was before.
Yeah, you're right.
1979. Finasteride got FDA approved in 1979.
Yes, but minoxidil was built in the 1950s.
Really?
Although it was not used for that purpose.
Oh, I had no idea.
Wasn't it used for high blood pressure? Was that?
Yes, that's the thing. Yeah. Minoxidil was a pill created to treat ulcers. And it didn't work as well on ulcers, but they saw a significant reduction of high blood pressure. So they started using it as a high blood pressure medication, and it works. But the problem with that was body and, of course, body hair and excessive hair everywhere. And people were like, what's happening here? And someone in what we call today Johnson & Johnson.
You made.
Yeah, someone in what today is Johnson & Johnson, they realized that maybe they can do a topical solution, and that's what happened in the 80s.
Oh, okay.
Exactly. It was first created, in the 50s.
Gotcha.
Yeah. But back in the 80s, then they discovered, that if they apply it, then they can control the effects of body hair, and they could stimulate only on the scalp. And that is one of the reasons why I'm so against using minoxidil orally till this day. And it is a new trend in many doctors. And I know Dr. Jeff Donovan likes to increase the amount of minoxidil. And actually, you found something about it. Can you talk to us a little bit about that? It was a recent research. It was
published. So recent researchers, Dr. Jeff Donovan was presenting. So he said that they're using oral minoxidil right now, 0.125 milligrams oral minoxidil, and they titrate it to up to above 0.5 milligrams of this oral minoxidil. But he actually says that we have to be aware of the side effects. One of the side effects is fluid retention and heart palpitation, and also actually fluid around the lungs and heart.
Actually, that's one of the reasons that I'm I'm kind of pushed to the fence with oral minoxidil because if someone who does not have any high blood pressure issues and start taking a medication for it,
Yeah.
will it affect the normal heart rate, and would that benefit risk ratio out goes on one side of the balance
Yeah,
greater
balance
than the
it.
other? So I'm skeptical about it. I'm not convinced yet. I mean, I could be
Yes.
later on, but at this moment, I'd like to hold back on the whole minoxidil thing.
Yeah, we should be aware of it. We know what is going on, but as Sergio said, with not necessarily you can use it, because there's tons of other treatments that we can do.
Exactly. Now, Carrie, talking about this DHT sensitivity, and of course about the oiliness, and in your practice, when specifically you, because are the hairdresser and many other hats that you have, but especially behind the chair, have you found that it's very commonly among clients that if they have greasy scalp, oily scalp, that they will be more prone to androgenic alopecia? Have you found that?
No, I've
Not
never
necessarily.
I've never really noticed. No. Usually if I'm looking for signs of that, it's usually I'm looking at their lifestyle, to be quite honest. I don't even consider the hormones, or like the oil, and checking out that. Mine's always asking their lifestyle, because I've seen quite often people who are predispositioned for genetic hair loss, and then they end up getting it more faster. Like we have a colleague that had genetic hair loss, and it was very early, and it was because of his work where he was working in a chemical plant. So, and that sped up the process. So once he removed himself from that trigger, it's went back, so that's usually what I look for before anything. Because I find in today's society, with stress and understanding epigenetics, it's a huge trigger. It's like lock and loaded this, so.
And anyway, if I'm not mistaken, Carrie, oily scalp anyway should be treated regardless, because if it's not gonna cause hair loss, it's gonna cause other problems, right?
Yeah,
like scalp conditions.
Scalp conditions. And to be quite honest, like full disclosure, I live in Canada, in northern Alberta, where it's quite dry, and we're in the middle of winter, so it's quite rare that you see an oily scalp. It's quite dry, and
unlike in the Caribbean, where we see a lot of heat, a lot of humidity. Yeah.
Right.
Right. And if we do, it's usually because their skin's very dry and their body is overproducing oil, and that's usually the first thing we look at, is be like, okay, do you moisturize your scalp? And we do, like, we have like we get to minus 47 sometimes where I'm at, and sometimes we get to plus 30 Celsius. Fahrenheit, Celsius, we're different in Canada. So you're always looking at that too. I do see a lot of oily scalps in youth quite often, and that's hormones always, when their hormones are out of whack, and I get that really waxy, gross oil on their hair, and you have to clarify it with clarifying shampoos. but I don't really analyze it for the genetic. Honestly, my first go-to is, what are your triggers? So
yeah. I like your approach, because again, you're watching on an environment that is more dry, and it's what you're more commonly what you will see, and I like that approach, because people, you have to consider that whenever we talk about different signs, you have to consider where you live, your culture, what you eat, what you don't eat, the medications, what is available to each and every one of you. So it takes a lot of work for us as to analyze that data and to realize what's happening at the end of the day. So I encourage you guys to visit a trichologist, or consult any of us. At the bottom of the screen, maybe you will see a link of the hairwire.com, and you can send us an email, and we can get the right information for you if you like. Okay, so
connect you with a good trichologist.
Yeah, find a good trichologist. So let's talk about treatment options now, Carrie. Whenever we talk about androgenic alopecia, let's talk about female pattern hair loss. What are some of the treatments that you would recommend to females?
Females, first off, of course, stress management. I analyze their diet, see what they're eating, and I make sure that they're getting proper exercise. I find a lot of women in today's society, especially where we are constantly hustling and working and not eating properly and not getting exercise. So my first recommendations are rest, joy, and hydration. And I make sure that they're getting proper circulation. So at least 20 minutes of heart exercises, getting your heart rate up, whether it's 10 minutes in the morning, 10 minutes at night, because circulation is key, especially with any type of hair growth or hair loss. I also too will check their diet, make sure they're eating a lot. I have a few women actually right now that I'm dealing with that have genetic hair loss, and their diet is so poor. They were nurses, so of course they're eating one meal a day. They're not eating a good meal. Oh, I don't eat protein. I only eat vegetables. So I analyze that first, because if you're not eating a well-balanced diet for you, first off, and it's not a one-size-fits-all world out there for the way you eat. I also look at your heritage too, how you should be eating. You got to make sure you're getting enough rest. And then if I do incorporate any treatments, I like to go the holistic approach. And like I will do the low-level laser therapy, I'll do the ozone therapy. But honestly, if I'm going to send them with anything, I'll recommend
Laser cap.
not the laser cap, the microneedling with some stimulating with microneedling and with the vitamin B, just to trigger that, and just scalp massages, and I'll give them tools to stimulate that hair growth. But I find usually first thing it's looking at your lifestyle first.
Excellent. Biz, let's talk about treatment options. What else could you recommend for guys as well?
Yes, so usually for guys, it's the first medication that's well known as Propecia or finasteride. It's 1 milligram that will block the action of DHT. It's very effective. However, it does have side effects. So consult with your doctor, with your physician. It's a prescribed medication.
Yeah, and so, I can't, a trichologist can't prescribe just unless they are a PhD. But if I do go to that road, I do write a request for their doctor, or and help the client abdicate on what to ask for and why they're asking. So I won't go to the doctor and be like, you've got to prescribe them this. I'll say, hey, doctor so-and-so, I'm a trichologist. I recommend this. We're at this route. I recommended that the client investigate this.
Correct.
Yeah.
So exactly what Carrie said. We are trichologists. We educate you of what are the available treatments that is for your case. But as we all collectively, I think we do, is we use the prescription medication as a last resort. There's so many things, there's so many steps that can be done before that, as Carrie started with diet and lifestyle. After diet and lifestyle and stress management and all this Carrie was talking about, we come to, for example, minoxidil, which is a topical solution over the counter. However, minoxidil, it was prescribed for women for 2% and men for 5%, but recent study says that actually 7 and 8% is more effective. However, with the minoxidil, we should know which compounded pharmacy is doing it, because it also comes with side effects. Let us say, usually what minoxidil does, it does actually dilate the vessels around your hair follicles, so more circulation will come there and regenerate the area basically, and give more blood and nutrients to your hair follicles. However, in recent studies, as Dr. Jennifer this morning was talking about, 8% has been shown to be more effective when people do like 10% or 30%, actually is not being more effective. Not the more the merrier. No, not in this case. Because he said that when it is 10% or 30%, then the minoxidil itself will become crystallized. And one note on the side, minoxidil itself, the compound minoxidil, it is inactive. When we put it in our scalp, it is in inactive form. So it has to be activated, listen to this, by an enzyme found in the outer sheath of our hair follicle. Then it will be minoxidil sulfate, I guess. And then that active form is the one that we are looking for. So 5%, 7%, 8% is good. Above that is actually just hakas bakas.
What does that mean?
It's just so hakas bakas means like people will try to sell you, 30% is better, 10% is better, 15% is better. It's just not better. No, at that point, after 8%, minoxidil will crystallize and it won't be effective. You will need around 5%, 6% to 8% maximum, then it will be effective. And there's a lot of cases have been shown that it's actually very good solution for an androgenic alopecia.
I like to talk about the difference between foam minoxidil and the liquid, the lotion of minoxidil.
Yeah.
You were gonna say something, Carrie.
Yeah.
Sorry, I cut you out.
No, I get this all the time with my clients who are when they go to a dermatologist or a doctor and they get prescribed topical and the minoxidil. Can they stop at any time?
That's the thing,
So
you know,
common.
whenever people start with minoxidil or Propecia, for that matters, if the intention is to block DHT, and if it's working, once you suspend it, then the DHT is going to be coming up in large numbers again. So that's why people cannot stop using it, because
You know what I
if it
say?
starts working, then you are dependent on it. So if I like the Bissan's approach, you know, let's start with simple stuff first. If we can work that out, excellent. But if over time we're still seeing hair loss, then I will go with the big guns. I will go with the medication on it.
Yeah,
and that
last
will help.
resort, very
Yeah.
last resort.
You know what I say to people when they tell me I want to stop the minoxidil? Minoxidil is inconvenient. Sometimes it makes you itchy. Sometimes it makes like your hair. I understand that, but like as if like I say that, do you stop brushing your teeth because your teeth are clean? You don't. You don't. And also just very quick note, for finasteride to work, it's not a treatment, it's not a cure. It works temporarily. Today you take finasteride, this week you're taking finasteride, and this week your DHT sensitivity is a bit low. But next week you stop it, then everything goes back to normal. And that's why it's a good thing. It's a good thing, because if somebody has the side effects from finasteride, it's actually reversible. So you don't have to be very scared from finasteride. But again, it's the last resort. Minoxidil also, it is like we're going backwards. Finasteride, minoxidil, then then the lifestyle and diet and all the stuff that Carrie says.
Actually, I wanted to mention, you know, there was a doctor, a German dermatologist. She was in one of the Congress that we participated last year, I think it was the year before, and she was mentioning that, you know, for patients who are combining finasteride and minoxidil, and you know, if they keep using it for at least 3 to 5 years, sometimes we may see that the genes related to hair loss are knocked off. And that was amazing. That was amazing. Now, of course, she's creating this kit where you can have a gene test and see after 3 to 5 years taking the combination of minoxidil finasteride. For those who are on that level, if you stop taking it, do you still have the genes, the code for hair loss? If not, then you're free. You're off the hook. And
so
that
knocking down the genes?
Yeah, it could knock down the genes. So I mean,
rewriting your genes, biohacking.
Exactly, it's biohacking. So the thing is that if a gene can be turned off, can it be turned on? And
yes.
If that happens, can it be turned off again? That's a question. That's a good one, by the way. You know, for researchers to find out.
You need an experienced biohacker to answer your question.
Yeah. So I wanted to talk about also about, you know, we were mentioning about the minoxidil, the lotion and the foam version. There's a lot of confusion out there.
Yeah.
And I wanted to mention, you know, one of the main differences is the pH level. The lotion pH level is about 9 to 10. The pH level on the foam version is about 4. So naturally, the foam version has more, it's more, how we say, more amicable to the scalp than the lotion. So with the foam, we see less irritation on the scalp, less flakiness, less itchiness because of the pH level. Now, the reason why the liquid has such a high pH level is because of what you mentioned, Bissan. To keep the active form of the minoxidil, they need to keep that pH level higher on that liquid form in order for the body to accept it. And that is why it's so complicated in that end. So it is a personal theory of mine that I believe that foam minoxidil could be actually better because it's more friendly to the scalp, and of course, you know, it will make it the absorption more easily in that end. What do you think?
And one more thing to add to what you just said is the foam one is vacuumed, so there's less preservatives in it. The lotion one is not, so they have to extend the shelf life of it, so there's a lot more preservatives, and the more you use the preservatives over time, you become sensitive to them.
You see, this is why we have a researcher on the show.
See, I think with my cosmetology hat, I would think, because normally when you have the pH of the natural hair, and we got to keep it at a certain pH level, whether we're coloring it or doing treatments on it. I would myself think if I had someone with really dry scalp, I would give them the lotion, and if I had somebody with a really oily scalp, I would give them the foam. So for me, I'd be like, well, that's great, because there's two options, because you always have somebody that's over oily and you always have someone that's dry, right? So I'd like to have those options. We don't have that option. We only have the lotion that I've seen where I live, but I knew clients had that option. I'd be like, hey, maybe try this for your scalp, because your scalp's kind of right now. So,
and you can always switch. The thing that our hair and scalp is very sensitive. Even the best shampoo ever, you have to switch it. Otherwise, all the chemicals, like even the natural one, they are actually botanical chemicals. They are chemicals. So we got so sensitive to them because we have a threshold. When we hit this certain threshold, then we need to change the product we're using.
I want to have a talk on product one day. We got to do a show, because by parabens, and when everybody starts understanding, know this, know that, there's so much misinformation out there, and a lot of substitutes that are quite carcinogenic, even though they're saying that they're healthier solutions, they're actually worse than for you. So let's plan to put notes to have a whole topic on product and ingredients.
You got it.
Let's do it. Now, I wanted to piggyback on what Bisana was talking about, natural ingredients that we can use. And it came to me, that supple metal. Supple metal is one of the greatest natural plants that we can use to treat androgenetic alopecia, because it's a natural DHT blocker. Now, what are some of the benefits of using supple metal, Biz?
So supple metal, actually, it does block the DHT. It does, but at a very small doses or in a very small effect, not like the finasteride does. But because supple metal is an herbal solution, that's why it doesn't have a side effect. So if you take it every day with your multivitamin, it will be a great solution. Especially if your hair loss is triggered because of nutrient deficiencies. So take your vitamin B6, take your zinc, take your omega-3s. The ratio of omega-3 should be omega-3 should be the 6 should be more than 9. So So anyway, supple metal is a great solution because it does not have side effects, especially for women. And women,
unless they're pregnant or getting pregnant, put that in.
Our sensitivity is not too high. What did you say?
Careful if you're pregnant or trying to become pregnant. I wouldn't recommend.
Oh, right. And or lactation. Yes. No. And anyway, you guys, this is an educational conversation. You ask your doctor first before doing anything that we are suggesting. We are suggesting because we're talking about things. We are educating what we went through or our experience from our clients. But but you have to consult with your own doctor. This is not a medical advice. This is just education, knowledge. That's it.
That's it, guys. We have lots of education. We have so many things that we want to talk about. But if we start again, we're not going to end, and we need to start cutting this short. We need to start shorting the program right now.
Okay.
So guys, let me remind you guys.
We're going to talk about PRP. We're going to talk about PRP for androgenic alopecia. We're going to talk about JAK inhibitors, and we're going to talk about Botox.
Ooh. For androgenic alopecia?
Yes.
Nice.
Yes.
Nice.
Yes.
I mean, we have the best crew here in the world, guys. And you're getting it all. You're getting it all here on the Hair Wire. So visit our website, thehairwire.com, and visit all of our social media. Right now, we have our podcast on Apple. I forget the name.
Spotify.
Spotify, and the other one's Apple what?
Apple Podcast.
Apple Podcast. Yes. I'm sorry, Apple. I'm a hater. I'm an Android guy. So sorry.
I'm an Apple girl.
Android guy. No.
Sorry. I'm an Apple guy. I'm not an Apple guy.
I'm an Apple girl. Apple. It's okay.
Me too.
So guys, tune in. Visit our website, thehairwire.com. See all of our social media. Hit the like button. Of course, hit the subscribe button, very important, and hit the notification bell so you can get notification of all of our streams, all of our media. And of course, we want to see you here. Please comment on the video. If you have any questions, we want to bring it in for the next show. And what else, guys? What else am I missing today?
Sharing is caring, you guys. If you know anybody who would benefit from this information, or if you just want to support us helping other people, please share, like, tell your friends, because we want to make this place a better place for us by changing the hair industry as we know it, by connecting those people together that are going to make us have a better hair world. So make sure sharing is caring.
And we want you to come over to our show too. If you have a case that it's puzzling you, just come in, email us, let us know what is the case. You can come as a guest and we can discuss it. And if we don't find the answer between the three of us, we will hire somebody else. We will bring somebody else. We want to educate you and ourselves about the solution of hair loss in a nice, friendly environment. We are all here together. We are a team, and we together can build a better hair.
Ah, that was nice. That was sweet, guys. So thank you guys for tuning in today. We hope to see you soon. Later. Bye-bye.